What's up, everybody? Welcome to the All About the Birds special feature show this Sunday night. It's the March Madness Bracket Breakdown Show. I am your host, Phil Stifle, joined by three guys that know way more than I do about college basketball. We got Chip Keggy from Chips and Dish and All About the Birds. We got our gambling expert at All About the Birds. We got Mike Barrera, and we got Michigan State's finest, Jason Sullivan, who squeaked in at the end there to make the bracket. Really? How are we all feeling tonight, guys?
Ready to go, man.
I'm feeling great. I love Selection Sunday. I love NCAA tournament time.
Yeah, and this is the first year. I mean, we missed it last year, so that makes this year so much more exciting because we've been waiting 2 years for another March Madness. So it's exciting. It's exciting as can be. Real quick though, Jason, are you happy or not happy with Michigan State's placement? Because we got that's the most important question of the night, since you're the only guy that's got a school that you graduated from in it. Because I did go to Drexel for 1 year, but I don't think that really counts.
Oh, they're in though. That's all that counts.
Yeah, they are. They're in.
I'm not overly happy with their playing game. I thought their resume was strong enough to not be in. I thought Syracuse should have been that one in that seed, but it is what it is. We got to win. We got to beat UCLA. They should be able to do it, so hopefully they can. But yeah, I thought they earned enough to. They beat two of the 4 1 seeds in the past 2 weeks, and then also a 2. So I thought that they should have been seeded a little higher, but that's just me.
Mike,
We're 3 minutes in. We're 3 minutes in, and there's already Syracuse, Michigan State shade. 3 minutes in.
Why? Did you go to Syracuse?
No, I didn't. Actually, one of my buddies goes to Syracuse. I'm sure he's happy
I
right
thought
now.
there was going to be something there. I'm like, I didn't even ask where you guys went to school before this.
No,
I didn't even know.
Rolling proud here.
Kutztown University, Division II. What's up?
Yeah. Mike, I'm sorry. Were you going to say something about the Syracuse comments?
Oh, no, I completely agree with him. I think Syracuse shouldn't even made the tournament to begin with. But, we can get that in, more in depth as a show.
Just keep putting that one up.
All right, yeah. As we before we get started on the show and the topic of conversation, I got to remind everybody, obviously, we are doing our March Madness Bracket Challenge on our website. It's linked through ESPN. You sign up. It's $5 to enter. If you go to the website, I just put the comments in the comments section, the link to the article. You send the $5 to our Venmo. You get in. We got cash prizes. We're giving away All About the Birds swag as well. So get in on it. Try to beat the host. Try to beat all of us. We're all in it, and we're all trying to show who the smartest is. But it's a lot of fun. It's $5. It's nothing too high that's gonna break the bank and all. Just make it a little fun.
It's $5 per bracket. So if you want to put in
that's true.
4 or 5 brackets, go ahead for a 20 spot. For and Mr. Jackson, you can have 4 chances to win.
All right, let's get started with this bracket.
Real quick,
first question,
can I just throw out that?
No, you cannot throw anything out there.
I think Mike is the betting favorite as of right now. So he is minus 150 at the moment right now. So if you want to try to beat the champ.
Yeah, don't jinx me, man. Now I want to come in last place.
I'm at least plus 10,000 to win this event. So there's literally no chance of me winning this event. But we're going to start with the first question. The 4 number 1 seats. You got Michigan, you got Gonzaga, you got Baylor, and Illinois. Do we agree with those 4 as the number 1 seats, or was somebody robbed, or that you think should have or had deserved a chance at that 1 seed? We'll start with Chip. What do you think there, Chip?
So I think they got it right. I think the only one you could really make a case for is Alabama coming out of the SEC. That's a tough fight. But I think the 4 that they have are pretty solid. Gonzaga, the number 1 overall. We're going to get into that, but Gonzaga right now is, I know they're the number 1 seed overall. So that means that they're probably going to lose a game, but they haven't lost a game all season, and they win by double digits every game. So Gonzaga is not only the favorite to win the tournament, but they're a favorite to dominate the tournament. And Baylor is right there as well. So I think they got the 4 right. Maybe only flip-flopping like Michigan and Alabama as the 1 and 2.
Gotcha. Jason, what are your thoughts on the 4 number 1 seeds?
Yeah, I think they got it right too. Like Chip said, Gonzaga's far and away the best team in the country. I always look at these things to see how many pros these guys have on their teams. And I feel like at least the top 3 seeds being Gonzaga, Baylor, and Illinois all have at least 2 pros on their team. So I like all those. Michigan's kind of stumbling a little bit at the end of the season. And then Isaiah Livers being hurt is going to really hurt them, I think, come the tournament. He's one of their 2 or 3 best players. So I think that's going to hurt, but I think the body of work, those are the 4 best teams, definitely.
Mike, are we going 4 for 4 here that everybody agrees that the number 1 seeds are right?
I say 4 for 4. I think out of the 4, though, Michigan is probably the one with the biggest question marks just right now. Just what Jason said, because of the injuries, they kind of stumbled later when they were kind of rising to dominance. So you really don't know what Michigan squad you're going to get that first round.
Yeah, I agree. And again, like I said, yeah, we all agree on that. I will say when I do, because again, I have minimal knowledge this year. I haven't had a lot of time to watch a lot of basketball. But when I look at these brackets, I kind of feel like Gonzaga almost got screwed a little bit. I think their region, their bracket, it's got some really tough matchups potentially down the. They're obviously going to beat or win their first game and probably their second game. But you can make a case that Virginia, Creighton, a bunch of these teams, Iowa, it's a really stacked section there. Am I wrong for thinking that, guys?
Well, no, but also remember that this year is a little bit different because the entire tournament is being held in one location. So there don't have to be geographically accurate, whereas they are just putting all the teams that they – so, you wouldn't see USC versus Virginia normally in the first round because they're in complete –
But that's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at more of the sense that normally the number 1 overall seed gets the easiest path to the Final Four. And I don't think they have the easiest path. Jason?
I don't know. I've kind of been going back and forth a little bit on this. I've been kind of diving through the brackets. I don't think their path is they do have a lot of decent teams in their bracket. I'm just not sure if any of those teams even stack up to them. So I think their path is pretty solid. I mean, they're a really good team. Their level of competition obviously isn't as good as some of these other teams, the Big Ten or the what's the other one that's huge? The
Big 12,
Oklahoma State, Big 12, yeah. So it's not. Their strength of schedule isn't as tough, but I just think like the amount of pros that they have on their team and the way that they can score the ball, they're going to be a tough matchup. So I actually like their bracket. I think they're going to breeze right through it.
All right. If I could just add one thing to Gonzaga. So I personally have Missouri beating Oklahoma the first round. And in my article that I had Missouri as a dark horse. I mean, if you look at their resume just off the wins alone, they've beaten Alabama, they've beaten Arkansas, they've beaten Oregon, and they've beaten Illinois. So they have a pretty solid schedule. The problem with Missouri is that they can also play like crap. So it's kind of like which version of that team are you going to get? If they have Tillman leading the way, they could absolutely beat Gonzaga. But the pro player Suggs right there off the bat for Gonzaga is an elite guard. He will turn it on, and he won the title championship last week just because of his final end of the quarter or end of the half run. So it's tough for sure.
Yeah, he's a game-changing player. There's no question. I mean, and he is going to be an exceptionally high, if not the number 1 overall pick in the draft. So he is that level of talent that can just help them coast. By the way, and just as just a shameless plug, while you're on the All About the Birds website, finding out how to sign up for the bracket, read Mike's bracket breakdown article because I learned a lot, and it was about a 7-minute read, and I felt very more knowledgeable. I skipped the betting section because I still don't understand it. I understand that there are lines.
Yeah. When Jason said Mike's the favorite at -135, Johnny or Chip was like, "Yeah, I don't know what that means."
Sounds pretty good.
That means that you have to bet 130. You need to bet $135 to win 100.
There you go. Yes, exactly. You're basically an expert. Yeah,
you're figuring it out. All
right, then.
Before we start breaking the bracket, each region down specifically, this year, everyone always talks about the last 4 out, the teams that didn't make it, got screwed. Sometimes there's a lot that goes into that. This year, the last 4 out are actually substitute replacement teams because of all the stuff going on in the world. If a team cannot play. I think it's Tuesday by 5 o'clock or 9 o'clock
Tuesday evening,
Tuesday evening sometime. If a team decides to withdraw from the tournament, the last 4 teams out are actually replacement teams. And they are listed Louisville, Colorado State. You got the St. Louis, and you got Ole Miss. Do we like the whole replacement team aspect of it? And do you think, guys, did any of those 4 teams deserve the actual bids over somebody else? Jason, let's start with you.
I thought Louisville would be in, to be honest with you. I don't want to keep harping on Syracuse, but I thought Louisville was going to be in over Syracuse. I feel like I don't know if I necessarily like the replacement thing, but you almost have to do it. This is different times than we've ever seen before. So I like the idea of it. Obviously, after the lock, if anybody has to withdraw from the tournament, it's going to be a forfeit after that, which is going to be weird if that actually happens. But no, I feel like for the most part, I think they got it right. Louisville is, I think, the one argument of being in the tournament.
Mike?
I thought Belmont got robbed this year, big time.
Okay.
They were dominant the entire time in their conference. They unfortunately lost to Morehead State in the title game, but I mean, they were great all season. I thought they should have at least been in over maybe Ole Miss. You could argue Prairie View A&M. They were also the best in their conference for a while, and then they lost in the title game. Colorado State is a tough one. If they get into the tournament somehow, the Mountain West was very good this year, so they could definitely make some noise. I actually thought they were going to be in it, possibly in the play-in round, but yeah. Otherwise, I think Louisville, like Jason said, is one of those I thought was going to be in it.
Gotcha.
Kind of to go off that point too, Belmont had 26 wins. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
For a team to not make the tournament with 26 wins.
It's
Most
kind
teams
of
didn't even play 26
unfortunate.
times.
It's kind of unfortunate those smaller conferences, if you don't win your title, your conference title, you have no shot at getting in whatsoever. It's really unfortunate for a team like Belmont. So I'm glad you guys brought them up.
And it's interesting, like 26 wins, and especially tying into the current state of what everything is. So number one, having the 4 replacement teams having the last 4 teams as the replacement teams is genius by the NCAA. Because of what we're dealing with the COVID stuff, and you're seeing teams becoming unhealthy and not being able to play in their conference titles and they're just trying to squeak into the tournament and get healthy. So as far as that aspect goes, you look at Belmont with all the wins. Not only do they have all the wins, but they did everything that they were supposed to do with the COVID protocols for them not to make it. But 15-win teams are getting in. I don't care who. If you're, I think Georgetown is 15-13, and yes, they won their conference, but they're 15-13. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's still
it's the way the NCAA bracket is.
So then you look at a team that is also in that conference, and again, I think this is just going to be a straight up Syracuse bashing tonight. But you look at a team like Syracuse, then they shouldn't have made it in. You got to go also with the smaller schools. And I think with the Ivy League dipping out as well. Like there's no Ivy League schools as well.
Especially in the ACC, with it not being as strong as it has been in the past, why replace Syracuse with Louisville and then take Syracuse out and then put, like I said, Belmont in for the final? It would just make more sense. The ACC was not that good. Their wins, to me, were not that impressive. Especially as a Tar Heel fan myself, I was not impressed by their beating of the Tar Heels here.
That's actually a great segue, because there's a lot of talk whether North Carolina would make it or not, Duke, and some other schools. So this is the first time in 26 years that Duke, our good friend Scotty from Scotty Talks, loves his Dukies, and they are not in it this year. First time in 26 years. And then I saw it's the first time since 1976 that both Kentucky and Duke are both out of the tournament. And it was really close to North Carolina not being in it as well.
Yep.
So, I mean, what's that say about the state of the basketball this year, that Duke, I mean, obviously had to withdraw from their conference tournament because of COVID issues and all. But, I mean, Duke and Kentucky both out of it this year. Is there anything to make out of it other than this year?
I think it also trickles down to the high school factor. So you look at schools like Kentucky, Duke, UNC, they are 1-year stops for these elite players, right? They cash all in for 1 year. So you look at the end of the basketball season for the high school tournaments last year, and those players had already signed their tickets. They were already good to go. Well, the requirement for the NBA is 1 year removed from high school. So these guys didn't have to go. And you saw guys opting out, like, I'm not going to play. And you saw a bad Duke team, bad Kentucky teams, and players that were just checked out. So it's surprising, but it's also not, in the sense of these guys are already looking at their millions. They're going to be drafted. They don't need to put themselves through COVID protocols in the NCAA tournament, in a watered down tournament this year.
Yep.
Jason, anything on that? Are you surprised? Are you happy they're not in it? Because, I mean, I'm happy Duke's not in it.
I actually like Duke, so I'm not happy that Duke's not in it. But, however, I feel like this could be a year that goes down as like one of those, I don't know. I don't want to say asterisk years, but almost kind of. It's going to be like,
Mm-hmm.
it's less of like the blue bloods, if you want to call them, like normal. And it's going to be, even Kansas. You're used to Kansas always being a 1 seed. They're a 3, so they're not terrible, but they're not the same dominant Kansas team that they've been. So I don't know. I'm not going to say it's an asterisk year, but at the same time, it's like, it's definitely a weird year. I think that it's going to stand out when you think of whoever the champion might be this year.
Well, see, that's another. You guys are just segmenting me for everything. Let's bring the brackets up. Kansas, they're in the first bracket we are going to break down. Gonzaga's bracket. You talk about Kansas. What is this? Bill Self's 25th, 26th straight year making the tournament, something along that. I mean, that's just insane to think of that.
Longest streak in the country.
I'm sorry.
Longest streak in the country.
Now that Duke lost it, yeah, absolutely. So this is the Gonzaga bracket. Gonzaga, the number one team. Obviously, the playing game, that they're going to play the winner of. I mean, I don't even think it matters to break that down.
No.
You got Oklahoma, Missouri, Creighton, University of California, Santa Barbara. You got Virginia, Ohio, USC. Wichita's facing Drake. I did not know the State Farm commercial gig was not working out for him. And he's in the tournament. I was working on that all day, just so you know. I was prepping that one just in case.
Oh, God.
We got Kansas versus East Washington, and you got Oregon, VCU, Iowa, Grand Canyon. Obviously, there's always the talk of the 5 versus 12 and the 4 versus 13 upsets. I did write some stats down. The 5 versus 12, the 12 seed is upset the 5 seed 50 times. Comes in at 36% of the time. When we look at this bracket, first off, from what I heard from you guys, I think you all think Gonzaga is going to come out atop. But what games are we looking forward to the most? We'll start with Mike this time.
Okay.
Looking at?
First of all, I think Drake is going to take down Wichita State very easily. But Drake is a cover machine, and they have been all season. At the end of the year, they lost Hemphill and they lost Penn, which is 2 of their best players. They still made it to the NBC title game, and they, of course, faced Loyola Chicago, which is one of the best teams in this whole bracket. As an 8 seed, that's ridiculous, but that's a different story. I think Drake can make a run. I really like UC Santa Barbara, actually. Their best player, McLaughlin, is 40% from the 3. They won the Big West title, and they were the regular season champs, so they could definitely make some noise. In Oregon, I'm not sold on Oregon. They looked terrified when they played USC this year. So those are 3 game matchups right there that I really am looking at.
Jason, what do you have to add to that?
It kind of pains me to say this, but Creighton, their coach is obviously a giant douchebag, so everybody knows that story. But Creighton's a good team. I mean, they could easily make some noise in this bracket too. That's going to be a tough game, I think, for Gonzaga. And honestly, I could see. Don't sleep on Ohio. I don't think Virginia deserved a 4 seed. I don't think they're that good of a team, to be honest with you. And I could see Ohio winning in the first round.
Yep.
I don't have any notes on this. Chip, what do you got?
Looking at the West, there is, in my opinion, there is not a chance that Gonzaga doesn't come out of it. So I think we all are basically on agreement on that, just because Gonzaga is such a dominant team. As far as interesting matchups go, I know it's an 8-9 matchup, so it really is a toss-up. That Oklahoma-Missouri matchup it's interesting. Yep. You are talking about 2 really talented schools, but streaky schools. So it has a potential being a fantastic game, but you could also see it very, very quickly just being bad basketball if one team decides to not show up.
Yeah. Definitely.
And then with Kansas, you always have to worry about. I mean, I think they're having COVID problems, if I'm correct, right?
I know Virginia is. They are, but I know there's quite a few teams that are.
Yeah.
I do like Iowa. I think Iowa can give Gonzaga a run for their money if the 2 of them make the Elite 8 for that Final 4 spot. I just always root against the Zags always. So I'll be pushing for Iowa just solely on Zag hate alone.
Well, Phil, if I could just talk about Iowa real quick.
Yeah, I would love to hear
it. They're playing Grand Canyon, 75% against the spread, 5-0 against the spread as an underdog. They are a very low post oriented team. So Iowa right there with Luka Garza should take them out. But Iowa, the most important thing with them is that they have Frederick and they have Wieskamp, I think, healthy now. So their offense is elite and they can score points. If they do make it to Gonzaga, that will be just an offensive shootout, in my opinion. And if Garza can just manhandle his way down low, they could actually knock him off. Maybe. I still think Gonzaga is a better team, but it's possible.
No,
Didn't they play, though? I think they played already.
I know Chip doesn't want to make his picks because he's doing that on the show tomorrow night. But I hate doing chalk. Whenever I look at a bracket, I'm always looking for upsets and whatnot.
Yep.
But in this bracket, I've got chalk, Gonzaga, Iowa as the final two teams. Mike, Jason, anything?
No, I think that's good unless maybe Kansas maybe puts it together for a run. I mean, they have the pedigree there. Missouri, like I said, a dark horse. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right on those.
Yeah. And
see, I actually don't like Iowa.
Okay.
As a person that's seen them play a lot, they can shoot it, right? So if Garza is on and they can shoot from the outside, they can look unstoppable at times. The problem is both don't really happen very often at the same time. I could see them losing early in this bracket for some. I just have a gut feeling.
How early could they honestly lose? Because they're not going to lose to Grand Canyon. We already said Oregon's a little overrated or has some issues. So maybe Kansas could get to them. But outside of that, I don't see them going any sooner than that.
No, I think Kansas is probably the most likely to beat them in this. I just don't think Iowa's just like that team that for whatever reason they always kind of falter in March every single year. So I don't have a ton of faith in them. Garza's good, but a lot of the times when Garza has these monstrous games, it's at the cost of their outside game not hitting VCU.
Yeah. we always got somebody wanting VCU. All right, so let's. Unless Chip, you want to give your picks, but I think you said.
No, I mean, I'll at least go with who I think's coming out of the bracket, and like I said, Gonzaga is there. And as far as the elite, the game to play into there, the Elite Eight, I do think it's going to be between Iowa and Kansas, and it just depends on if Iowa can put it all together.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, let's slide on down here. This is really fancy stuff I'm doing on this computer screen.
Right, and while you're sliding, please remember that you can send $5 per bracket to our Venmo at All About the Birds. The Birds.
There's the link.
For your
Sorry,
chance.
Jason, every time I put something up on the screen, it blocks your face.
I thought that's what Jason looked like.
Yeah.
Pretty good to me for sure.
All right, so now
$5 per bracket.
Yeah, we're going down to the bottom half of the bracket here, the East bracket here. Let's see here if I can get this center just right here. All right, so this is the Michigan bracket, okay, guys? We got Michigan, number 1 seed. You got LSU, St. Bonaventures. You got Colorado, Georgetown, Florida State. You got BYU going up against Michigan State. Michigan State's obviously going to go to the Final Four. You got Texas, Abilene Christian. You got UConn against Maryland. Alabama, Iona. I can't see it. I didn't center it. Right. Iona. There we go. We got it centered now.
Just zoom out one click and you'll be
Rick Pitino's Iona too.
Is
That's
it?
right.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
So does that give them the advantage over Alabama?
No, I think Alabama takes it.
I was gonna say, you can't go that far.
Yeah.
I was just kidding there, guys.
So one thing I just kind of want to add as far as the way I'm looking into my picks is because this year has been so weird, I am looking almost exclusively at strength of coach because I think it really does matter. So when you're looking at a team in that Alabama-Iona matchup, it's going to be a better matchup than people think because Rick Pitino is the coach. Now, with that being said, Alabama should win that pretty easily. But just overall, because there's been so many abrupt stops here and there, and the NCAA has turned into a one-stop shop for the pros, I think you do have to look at strength of coaching as a kind of a tie-breaking factor when you're looking at the variables.
Yep.
Jason, what games are you looking at here in this bracket as your eyes are focused when you say it?
I like the 5-12 matchup in this one, Colorado and Georgetown. I just like the way Patrick Ewing has the squad playing right now. I mean, the record's not good at all. I think it was like Chip said 15-13, but they are playing. They're hot right now, and you could argue that they might be the hottest team in this bracket going forward right now. Maryland's dangerous. I think they're going to beat UConn in the first round, but I don't think they're going to get past Alabama. Michigan State's got a tough road, honestly. I think they'll beat UCLA, but BYU's no slouch at all. I think they were up 14 on Gonzaga in that championship game at one point. Yeah. So they're a pretty steady team, and I wouldn't count on Michigan State getting past BYU.
See, I disagree because you look at BYU. So Michigan State, UCLA being a play-in game to me, first off, is shocking because those are two supremely excellent schools, and you talk about that historical excellence. But BYU versus the top 25 is 1-3. So I think they're 10-3 in conference. They're 20-6, but 10 of those wins came in conference and not the strongest of conference, and they lost to some really good teams. So I think Michigan State has more of a chance, Jason, than you want to give them.
I'll take it.
All right, Mike. Where are you looking in this center of the bracket?
This bracket actually has a lot going on for me personally. So this one's like, first of all, St. Bonaventure, Abilene Christian, UConn are all excellent against the spread. I mean, talking about top-notch, above 7% against the spread. So if you're looking from a betting perspective, definitely lean those. UConn has Bouknight, who is just a great player. So if he plays elite, I could see them taking down Maryland, but Maryland is really tough. Even despite their record, they're tough. I'm going to talk about Abilene Christian, guys, because defense wins championships, and they are ranked nationally in defense. If I pull up my numbers right here, they're 8th in the nation in scoring defense. They force 20.64 turnovers a game, which is most in the nation, and their Reggie Miller, one of their guards, has 51 steals, which is 29th in the entire country. So they can play defense, and they can shut down any team that they face. So they could definitely be an upset against Texas.
Yeah, I'm looking at their points per game. Points per game for Abilene Christian, 60.5 points per game allowed. I mean, they are a defensive powerhouse. And the top 25, which may not mean much because the top 25 fluctuated insanely this year, 0-1. So who did they really play?
They played Ohio State, and they lost by 6.
There you go.
Yeah. The first thing I did before the even bracket was released, I wrote down 8 teams that I was going to be curious about where they were placed in the bracket, and depending on the matchups and everything else, what kind of run. Unfortunately, 2 of the teams are UConn and Bama, and they're basically have a chance of facing off in the second round. So I really think that kills my UConn thing. But as you said about Georgetown and the run that they've been on, they're 15 and 13. Yeah, I get that.
13 and 12. I was even more wrong. I'm looking at ESPN. 13 and 12.
Okay, whatever. They were basically a team that got hot in the Big East tournament.
Right.
We could go back to UConn when they got hot in the Big East tournament with Kemba Walker. Kemba carrying that team. They weren't that bad of a record-wise, but they weren't a great team at that point. And Kemba got hot, carried that team through the Big East, and then carried them right through the NCAA tournament. So, if there's going to be a 40% chance almost at a 12-seed upsets of 5, Georgetown could do it. And then, going from there, Florida State, some people like Florida State. I just, if your team's hot enough, you could definitely go. Georgetown could go right to the Sweet 16 there.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a huge Colorado fan this year. I thought they played great. They're really great at the free throw line. Batty down low is a great player. Oh my God, I'm losing the guy's name right now. His last name is Wright. Their guard. He's a senior guard. He's a great player. So I'm torn because I want to pick Colorado from watching them all season, but when you have a hot team like Georgetown, you really don't know what to expect. I mean, they could just go off and make it the Elite 8 for all we know.
Yeah,
it's just tough.
Right, and speaking more a little bit on Georgetown is Georgetown had a losing record going into the Big East tournament. Like they were just there to have fun. And they dominated. They beat the hell out of Creighton in the title game. So, I mean, you're looking at a team that is getting hot at the right time, which is when you eventually flip back in the comparison. It's when do you choose to get hot? So Gonzaga's been hot all year, but are they going to have a slip up compared to Georgetown is kind of doing the right thing and they're getting in a good rhythm? And do they just carry it all the way through? I think that Georgetown could surprise people. I kind of like Colorado a little more, but I do think Georgetown could surprise some people.
Yeah, well, I mean,
what's funny too about?
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, kind of along the lines of Georgetown, like Chip said, they came in with a losing record. Patrick Ewing's job was probably on the line at that point. If they don't win this conference tournament, I think Ewing might have been out. So it's interesting to see what that happened. What exactly happened in that tournament. It's funny to kind of go along Phil's point of UConn. The year that they had Kemba Walker, they were a 7th seed also. So does history repeat itself? And they beat Michigan State along the way. So,
oh man,
there you go.
So we're going to start with Jason then. As a Michigan State guy, and seeing a lot of Michigan basketball, does Michigan get through this bracket, or are you leaning another way?
I'm not sure Michigan gets through the first weekend. I like LSU.
Wow, okay.
To be honest with you.
Wow.
I think Michigan struggles a lot. They have 3 really good players. Obviously, Livers is out, which is going to kill them. I think. they're playing through their big guy, which he's really good. But at the same time, I feel like if their shooters aren't around him, you kind of saw what happened this weekend. They didn't look like the same team. So I'm a little bit scared of Michigan. And I could see LSU beating them in the first weekend.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was actually going to touch on LSU. I like St. Bonaventure. I don't think they're strong enough to match the offensive power of LSU. I mean, they can't play defense for hell, but they can score. Mm-hmm. And if they can catch Michigan either, shorthanded or just a little bit off their game, they just light up the gym easily. So yeah, I agree with them.
Yeah, Michigan, they had to shut down their program middle of the season because of COVID stuff. And then they showed rust and then they had injuries. I think out of all the number one seeds, and we said this at the top of the show, Michigan is by far the weakest number one seed. Deserving, yes, but definitely the weakest of the four. Making it out of the first weekend, I don't think we're going to see a 16-1 upset, unlike the one time we saw it with Virginia. But yeah, that LSU team is one to watch for the first couple, games of the tournament.
So Mike, then I'll start with you, Mike. What would be your final two teams out of this section of the bracket, and who's coming out to go up against
this is the bracket
in the Final Four?
This is the bracket I had the hardest time with because I like so many of these teams. Yep. I'm going to say I'm going to go LSU. I'm just going to throw it out there, LSU. Wow. And I'm going to go with UConn. I'm going to trust Book Knight to take it. I really have no idea on this one. This is a tough one.
Yeah. So whoever's coming out of this bracket isn't beating Gonzaga, then, is what you're saying?
I don't think so. No. This is a tough one. They're going to eat themselves alive in this bracket.
Jason, who do you got in this bracket?
I'm going to go LSU and Alabama, and I'm going to go Alabama coming out of this bracket.
Wow, another LSU pick here. That's insane. So, yeah, I before Chip, I got Alabama as well. Yeah. Going up against actually Florida State, with Alabama coming out of this bracket as well.
Yeah, Florida State's good. They got the size. I mean, when they played UNC, they fell asleep in the second half and just got embarrassed. And then they just kind of stumbled recently. They should have won the title game, but
I just don't think that their half of this bracket is tough for them. Because again, like everyone said, Michigan's struggling. They're gonna win their first round matchup. They could beat Colorado or Georgetown. I think Georgetown could beat Colorado, but I think their momentum is gonna eventually come halt. They could even lose to Colorado pretty easily. I think that momentum is gonna crash at some point pretty early in this tournament. Mike.
And Florida State at one point was looked at as a top, possibly a top 1 seed or 2 seed. So they're not a bad team. They just kind of been struggling lately.
Yep, agreed.
Right. I like Alabama. I like Alabama coming out of it. I think their Sweet 16 game against Michigan State is going to be one to watch. Because I have a lot of faith in Tom Izzo and all the things that he does over there. I'm looking over at you, Jason.
Tom Izzo is Mr. Tournament Coach, plain and simple.
Mr. March.
Yep.
But I hesitate with a team for the top half of the bracket because there are so many question marks all over the place. I think where a lot of brackets are going to get busted, and the separation is going to be in the top half of this bracket because people are going to sleep on Georgetown. Georgetown might get hot, or people are going to pick Georgetown and they lose in the opening game. Michigan is not going to make it more than 2 games in this tournament, but people are going to see that number 1 and they're just going to go that way. So it's the top half of the bracket I'm not ready to look at yet, but I do think Alabama is your representative in the Final Four.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Alabama's been good all year, and LSU just had a great run through the conference tournament, and they're getting hot at the right time.
I would like to see that rematch too. I mean, that'd be a good game to watch again.
Gotcha. All right, let's slide over.
And again, as you slide, don't forget to get your brackets in, people.
Get those brackets in here.
Get your brackets in.
Get the comment section. Get the comment. This is where the link is. It's at the. I'll just put a fresh comment, so it's at the. It's fresh right there. It's in the comment section there. You guys can join it. There you go. Anywhere, your Facebook, Twitter, just link on. All right. So we are into the next side of the bracket. This is where my Drexel Dragons are going to come out on top.
Drexel Dragons.
I went to Drexel my freshman year. That was right after their last appearance in 1996. I bumped into Malik Rose in the gym, played a little pickup game that he was involved in. So that's my Drexel story, and I'm sticking to it. But on this bracket here, you got the Fighting Illini there. Drexel. You got Loyola Chicago, who's a darling. Everybody's talking about them. You got Tennessee, Oregon State, Oklahoma State Liberty, San Diego State, Syracuse, who everybody loves supposedly, West Virginia, Morehead State, Clemson, Rutgers, and Houston against Cleveland State. Oh, Adam Mack's own Cleveland State. All about the Birds.
Cleveland State.
Adam Mack, who's a Cleveland State alum, I believe.
Wait, so Phil, I was told in a chat that we all seem to have, and I want to release Mike here. Mike, do you have some thoughts on Syracuse that you would like to share with the viewers?
Oh, thanks for asking. Yes, I do. I cannot stand Syracuse. I'm not a big fan of San Diego State, but I hope San Diego State pummels them into the ground. They don't deserve it. I want Belmont in there. I want a team like Prairie View or another team to get a chance. I'm sick of Boeheim. Get him out of here.
Okay. All right. So we'll start. Let's go, Chip. Chip, which matchups, which games are you looking at the most here? Because I actually have quite a few games I do like in this section. I think that could be some fun teams / fun, opening round games.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go with. I think back to a couple years ago and Loyola Chicago, and they were this ridiculous team. They have this sweet old lady watching over them, and they make a run. Loyola Chicago is an 8 seed in the NCAA tournament. So to think of where they have moved up, that's going to be a fun one to watch, just simply because the growth of their program. And then overall, they're 24-4. They allow 55 points per game. So they are defensive studs.
Yep.
It's one to watch. I think Georgia Tech's got a tough matchup there. I would not be surprised if Loyola just completely smacks them around. And then, I look at the rest of it and I want to see how badly Syracuse gets beat up. They don't deserve to be in this tournament. They do not deserve to be in this tournament.
So that just marks it down because all you guys are saying that Syracuse is going to the final.
Yeah, they're
four.
going to win.
Oh, for sure. Boeheim's going to win the damn thing.
They're a minimum of Elite Eight. Only problem with that is they would have to beat some of the teams I like in this bracket. So, right. Jason, where are you looking in this section of the bracket?
So what's funny, kind of to go back to Syracuse, is they don't deserve to be in the tournament, but there's been a few tournaments like this in the past where they didn't deserve it, and they somehow win. It's that zone defense that they play. It gives people fits. Michigan State lost to them a couple years ago in the tournament when they were loaded. They lost to them in the second round. So don't be shocked if Syracuse wins in the first round. After all the crap we talked about them, they're still not bad. Still think the best matchup is kind of what Chip said, Loyola Chicago against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is playing really good ball right now. And Loyola Chicago is just like that, I don't know, like lesser version of Gonzaga who just like continues to be better and better every single year. And they've gone from the sleeper team. Sister Jean has them all the way up to an 8 seed, which is like, that's pretty solid for them. They're a really good team. Unfortunately, I think they're going to have to play Illinois in the second round, which is going to be a bloodbath, I think. But I think this is the weakest bracket to be from top to bottom. And I think Illinois is going to roll through this bracket.
Really? All right, so Mike, I'm gonna phrase the question for you because I'm looking at a couple teams that could beat Illinois in this bracket. I'm looking at Oklahoma State, potentially the number 1 pick in the draft. Cade Cunningham, and let me phrase this by the fact that again, March Madness is for the casual basketball fans like me to really get their eyes on potential NBA prospects, and that's why last year when the NBA draft rolled around, I didn't know half the guys in the draft because I didn't have my March Madness to really zone in on these guys. And everybody talks about Cade Cunningham as a top prospect. So that's why I'm looking at Oklahoma State game there. And I'm also looking at Houston. I thought that they were borderline, could have been a number 1 seed. So, Mike, where are you looking at this bracket?
The bracket's great. If I could just touch on Loyola Chicago and Georgia Tech real quick.
I thought you were going to touch on Syracuse again.
I'm done with them for today. So, Loyola Chicago with Krutwig down low, I think could compete with Kofi from Illinois. That battle will be absolutely awesome to watch. And let's look at Georgia Tech is hot coming into the tournament. I agree. But who have they beaten in the last 8 games? They've beaten Pittsburgh, Miami, Va Tech, the crappy Syracuse team. They beat Duke, Wake Forest, Miami again, and then they beat Florida State. Florida State was the best win out of all of them. So they haven't exactly beaten the elite of the ACC. But yes, they're on a streak. So I just don't think they're able to compete with Loyola Chicago. if you want to talk about gambling, Phil, I know you're big on this. Oregon State is 19-9-1 against the spread. And they're playing a Tennessee team that is not great. They're okay, I would say, as a whole. I would say another team to look at would be, West Virginia. I think they could be a dark horse and make it through to the Final Four, or if not at least the Elite Eight. They're a strong team.
Again, coaching, strong coach, been around the block plenty of times towards Chip's theory there.
Right. But and talking about that specific matchup, you do have to look at the fact that West Virginia is one of those teams that is crazy hot or freezing cold.
Yeah.
So their first round matchup against Morehead State is actually a really difficult one. I think that that's going to be one of those games that you want to watch, because Morehead State is on one of those Georgetown-like hot streaks right now.
Yeah, no, they're definitely a tough team, and they beat Belmont to get into the tournament, and we've been praising Belmont, so it's someone to look for. And if you want to go to Oklahoma State, to Cade Cunningham, Isaac Likely is also a great player for them. They could absolutely make it to the Final Four if both of them are playing at a high level.
Okay, so who's your pick? Are you rolling with Illinois, or are you going elsewhere with the final two teams in this bracket?
You know what? As much as I like Illinois, they have had times this year where they've struggled a bit versus lesser opponents. They almost lost Northwestern not that long ago. I mentioned earlier they lost to Missouri. I think Loyola Chicago beats them. And I think Oklahoma State is the one who makes it out of this bracket.
Dude, I wrote down my final 8 teams right here. I got Oklahoma State coming out of this bracket. I actually got Houston and Oklahoma State as the final 2 teams in the bracket, with Oklahoma State winning it. Again, this is tournament time. Not enough people know about Cade Cunningham, and this is going to be his coming out party. Mr. Mack coming in here, checking in with Cleveland State again. I highly
with ease.
How many times does a 2 seed beat a 15 or 15 beat a 2?
More than a 16 and a 1.
Yeah, that's only one time. So yeah. All right, so let's slide up to the Final Four.
Hey, can I make one more point about Illinois real quick?
Oh, yeah, we'll slide back down. There you go.
Just real quick. We're talking about players that Cade Cunningham that people haven't seen. Obviously, a lot of people, your casual person is not going to know who that is. With Illinois, Ayo Dosunmu, I think he's the 3rd most talented player in the country after Suggs and Cunningham. He is a stud guard. They have a freshman Corbello that's playing really good ball right now. He's a point guard. And Mike brought him up earlier. Kofi Coburn. He is almost like a baby Shaq. Like, he is just an absolute monster down low. So I think that team's loaded, and they're playing really good ball right now. So Ayo Dosunmu, remember that name. I think he's going to be – Illinois is going to win this tournament, and Ayo Dosunmu is going to be the MVP.
Boom. Oh, wow, there it is.
We're making bold predictions there. So no one's giving Drexel a chance.
No.
Obviously. But since you're the gambling guy, before we came on the air, the lines hadn't even come out yet. What kind of a score is this Drexel-Illinois game going to come out to?
You're asking me? Drexel's actually pretty good against the spread. They're 70.6.
That's what I remember reading.
Yeah, they're 70.6 overall. They're 71.4 as underdog. I just don't think they can keep up offensively with Illinois, because who I think will, at the end of the day, just be too much for them. They have too many options that can score the ball. I mean, a tougher defensive opponent, maybe, but no sorry.
So they're losing by 20, 25 points in that game?
Maybe, I'll say 22. I'll hit it at 22. Yeah.
And, we mentioned that matchup specifically. Drexel has, first off, 12-7. Like, we're excited that they're there, but 12-7, and they didn't even play anybody of legitimate content.
They almost never would. Nobody in that conference ever plays anybody.
The closest they came is when they played Pittsburgh and lost by 9. So for them to go up against Illinois and the dominant players that they have, I mean, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly.
They showed Drexel. I'm going to just keep talking about Drexel because you guys just keep talking about Syracuse. When they showed those kids, in the locker room or wherever they were when their name was announced on TV,
they look like nice guys.
They're like, yeah.
They did. Probably great scholar.
Yeah, they're
look
all
like nice guys.
They're all worried about their engineering degree up there at Drexel. That's it.
Yeah.
Which is great. We need those people.
Which is great. We need engineers out there. Final bracket, guys. This is the Baylor bracket. Baylor, Hartford, North Carolina, Wisconsin. Our very own Villanova versus Winthrop. Popular pick right there. Purdue, North Texas, Texas Tech, Utah State, Arkansas, Colgate, Florida, Virginia Tech, Ohio State, Oral Roberts. I don't know whose turn it is to start, but we'll just go with Jason. What are we looking at here? I'm sure everyone's going to want to talk about Winthrop upsetting Nova, right?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be one of the popular upset picks for sure. Winthrop's a good team. And Nova, I'm not sure. Nova's not playing really good ball right now. And Johnny brought up a good point. Nova's one of those teams that if they shoot it well, I mean, they're a completely different team. But the problem is they haven't been shooting it well lately. So that's an interesting team.
And they lost their
and
leader.
Colin Gillespie.
Yeah, Colin Gillespie's gone.
I like Texas Tech a lot. I think they're underseeded in this bracket. I think they could cause some damage. And Purdue, I think, is overseeded. I've seen Purdue play a few times, obviously being in the Big Ten. I don't think they deserved a 4 seed. I think they should have been in the 6-7 region. So I think they're a little bit overrated. Ohio State's playing good ball. So this is going to be a good, solid bracket. And Baylor hasn't looked as good as since they came off their COVID, shutdown that they had. I mean, they're a long, lengthy team, and they're very athletic and very experienced. So they're obviously the class of this bracket, but they haven't really looked like the same Baylor team since they came back from COVID. So this is going to be an interesting one.
Mike?
There's a lot to unpack on this bracket. Baylor, obviously, choice there. I hate Wisconsin, so I think UNC takes them. Winthrop, they can kill you on any part of the floor, so I think they beat Nova, unfortunately, for the locals. I think Jason's right. Purdue will be a better team next year as they bring back a lot of their players. I just don't think they're ready right now. They're good, but they should probably make it one round, and that's about it. Utah State. I love Utah State. Kada from Utah State is an absolute monster down low. They are not an amazing team, but they are a strong team from a good conference in the Mountain West. Texas Tech will have their hands full. Yes, Texas does thrive on defense. Utah does turn the ball over a bit, but they are just a good rebounding team. Kada is a nice big man to watch down low.
Gotcha.
I look at this bracket, and Baylor is far and away the number 2 team in the country, right behind Gonzaga. They're a number 1 seed for a reason, and a very deserving of a number 1 seed. I'm kind of, they should have a pretty easy run. North Carolina snuck in. I think if we've talked about really good games, I think that North Carolina-Wisconsin game might be one of the worst of the weekend in that 8-9 matchup. Villanova, look, they had a good run, but Colin Gillespie being out, that 12-5 upset that they always talk about on ESPN will continue for another year because Winthrop is a much better team than Villanova without Colin Gillespie. One team, first off, I think Ohio State is, I saw in their game today, I mean, they're a good team, but I want to talk about Virginia Tech, and no one has talked about them yet. Virginia Tech started the season at 13-3. And then COVID wreaked havoc. And they finished at 15-6. So you want to talk about a team that was really strong. If they can reestablish their momentum, if they can kind of pick back up on what they were doing, Virginia Tech can make a run in this tournament as a 10 seed.
Thoughts on that, Mike?
I mean, maybe.
Ohio State right after.
I'm not a big fan of the Florida matchup. Just the two of them. It's a toss-up for me who wins that game. I think either way, Ohio State beats them just because they come from a better conference. They play better. But he's right. Virginia Tech is one of those mysteries. You really don't know what you're going to get out of them. They could surprise us. If you want to talk about one other matchup in this bracket, Arkansas and Colgate.
I was just about to say, yep.
So here's who Colgate has played this year, okay? Army, BU, Holy Cross, Loyola, Maryland. That's it. Just those 4 teams. The Patriot League was really weird this year. They kind of had a round robin type thing. So I think Arkansas, who's been a good team of late, should just kind of demolish them.
But Mike, records are everything, and Colgate was 14-1. Doesn't that mean that they're a better team than Arkansas at 22-6?
When you play Army, BU, and Holy Cross, I think it's easy to get the 14-1. So BU's okay. BU's not a bad team.
No, I mean, and they, I'm looking at Colgate didn't play anybody in the top 75. I mean, they really they didn't play anybody. Now, it's March. Weirder things have happened. So you look at the difference in points per game versus opponents' points per game. Colgate's at 86, and they've given up 68. So, but again, who have they played? I think that people are going to pick Colgate because they're going to see a one-loss team. But those average March Madness followers that Phil's referring to aren't going to go in a little bit deeper and be like, oh, they didn't play anyone. at all.
And when you look at that side of the bracket, I mean, if let's say Ohio State falls in the first or second round, like who could really come out of that? It could be Utah State, it could be Arkansas. That'd be one of those where you really have no idea if Ohio State goes down, who could actually pull that off, and it could be anyone.
The bottom half of that bracket is any of those teams could go up against Baylor in the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to disagree. I think this is like just like the Zag bracket. I think this is the other chalk bracket. I think it's Baylor. I think it's Ohio State. I honestly, North Carolina and Wisconsin, I don't think it matters. Baylor's going to beat them. If Winthrop beats Villanova, it doesn't matter because whoever comes out of that section of the Sweet 16, Baylor's going to beat them. On the bottom half, I like Arkansas, but I still got Ohio State sweeping right through there. I just think it's, sometimes people read too much into upsets and stuff like that and wanting to pick the 12 or the 13 seed or whatever, that they just forget these top teams are top teams for a reason. And yes, there's always upsets in the bracket and in March Madness, but I think this bracket and the Gonzaga corner are the ones where you're not going to see as many. The only upset you might see is Villanova. And I'm not even sold that Villanova is going to lose to Winthrop. I know everybody's got them down. And Chip, you've talked about coaching 300 times. Well, Villanova's got one of the best college basketball coaches in the biz.
Absolutely.
And you know what? Right. If anybody's going to get a team to lose their leader and still get them motivated to play, it's Jay Wright of Villanova. So,
But I think
if it's a short set upset as people think.
I think I agree because Jay Wright is a phenomenal coach. I think if Colin Gillespie had gone down a little bit earlier and Jay Wright had been able to establish a rhythm with the replacements, then you had that conversation. But because it is such a fresh injury, he's still going out there sending out rotations that have not gelled together all season.
Yeah.
No, JT, what else you got to add to this corner of the bracket?
No, I like Baylor too to come out of this bracket. I think Texas Tech is going to end up upsetting Ohio State. That's going to be my upset special. But I think Texas Tech ends in the Elite Eight against Baylor.
I mean, you look at who Baylor played. I mean, Baylor's so they're 22-2. Their two losses, they lost one time to Kansas, but they also beat Kansas. And they lost once to Oklahoma State, but they beat Oklahoma State 2 other times. So Baylor is really, I mean, if you're looking at potential final matchups, Gonzaga-Baylor in the finals would be an incredible game to watch.
That's a dream.
Pick right there.
Yeah, no, that's a dream one right there. Before the COVID shutdown, people were arguing that Baylor was actually better than Gonzaga. So it's one of those teams that can just turn it on and just blow you out of the gym anytime they want.
Right.
Let's zoom out there for a second. Let's bring up all Final Four here as we wrap this show up. The All About the Birds March Madness bracket special. Again, do not forget you can Venmo us $5. We've got a bracket challenge going on our website. It's $5 to enter, cash prizes, and you can enter as many times as you like. $5 per entry. There'll also be All About the Birds swag being given away. You get to compete with all of the All About the Birds team and lots of other great people. So we're going to start down. We're going to go down. We're going to go to Jason. Give me your final 2 teams and who you have winning and why.
I have Illinois beating Gonzaga in the finals. I think that this is going to be the first time I think that Gonzaga is tested by a team that also has as many pros as they do. And I just don't think Gonzaga matches up well against Illinois. I think Kofi Cockburn's going to go off in this game. Ayo Dosunmu is going to give everything he can to Jalen Suggs from that team. It's going to come down to a lot of guard play, and both teams have really good guards. But I actually think that Illinois' guard play is better, and I think Illinois wins the title.
There we go, Mike. We're going down to you.
I think
you're looking at the lines. You're looking at all the numbers. You're crunching them up. I see the little images going above your head there.
Yeah, the smoke's coming out right now. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, these are our picks today on Sunday night at 56. These picks could change tomorrow by the time we left.
No, I think Gonzaga should come out of that side of the bracket. I want to see Illinois because I like Cockburn and Ayo, but I think Baylor ends up being just too much for anyone they face at the end of the day. I want to see Gonzaga-Baylor. So let's put Baylor as a champion over Gonzaga.
There we go. Chip, are we going to save yours for tomorrow night? Chips and Dish?
No,
All About the Birds Network at 8:00.
I mean, look,
You can save it if you want. It's
We're
okay.
gonna save it. We're gonna save it.
You gotta hold out hope for people to watch tomorrow night.
We're gonna save it.
When your lovely wife,
right? So tomorrow night, let's talk about this. So tomorrow night, I know for the last 56 minutes, I sounded very intelligent talking about college basketball.
That was kind of debatable.
It is, and that's why there's 4 of us here. So I have been doing predictions with my wife for years now, and she, first off, in the March Madness bracket, she always kicks my ass without fail. And I always ask her, hey, what's your secret? So to give you a glimpse into my wife's thought process, for her secret for the football season, she picked the Green Bay Packers in most weeks and was right most weeks. Why? Because she loves cheese.
That's it. There you go.
So tomorrow night, live at 8 p.m. on Chips and Dish, we're actually going to rename it a little bit, Chips and Misses, because my wife is coming on, and we're going to do our side-by-side bracket selections and the reasons why maybe one of these years I'll actually beat her in a bracket challenge.
All right.
Wow.
All right. So stay tuned, everybody, for that great episode tomorrow night. I've got Oklahoma State beating Iowa in the championship game. There's always that one prospect. There's that one prospect that takes their name to the next level for the NBA draft. Cade Cunningham is going to be that guy. So that's just my knowledge. I mean, as I ended the show, the Fairway to Heaven show a few weeks ago, I'm just the idiot that talks, right, Jason?
That was the best ending of any show we've had so far.
All right, so let's end
He's
this
got the
show
knowledge,
here.
and I'm just the idiot that talks.
Yeah, exactly. You guys got the knowledge. I just talk. All right, so thank you all very much for tuning in. Great viewership, great comments throughout the section all night long. Again, Venmo, $5, all about -the birds. Go to www.aatbirds.com. That's where you can enter the bracket challenge. $5 to enter as many times you like, and cash prizes, and all about the birds merch up for grabs in it as well. See, I purposely wore the shirt just for that. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. The All About the Birds first ever March Madness. I love that. That's great. If I had a Drexel hat still, I would have had it on. I got my Widener stuff on the wall back there. So that's about it. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Again, tomorrow night, 8 p.m., Chips and Dish. Tuesday night at 9 p.m., me and Jason will be doing Fairway to Heaven. And we'll all be back again Wednesday night with the All About the Birds flagship show, the weekly report. And let's have a great tournament. It's great to have March Madness back, isn't it, guys?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Y'all have a great night.